township. Remember the first 7 verses of chapter 36? The land is renewed or redeemed from its present desolate condition. And then 8 through 15, the land is repopulated. And verse 16 through 21, the land is purified. And then 22 through 38 tells us about God's promise to return the people to this land, which is ready for them. And that's where we got to with verse 26. Let's pick it up with verse 24. Verse 24. For I will take you from the nations, gather you from all the lands, and bring you into your own land. And I will sprinkle clean water on you, and you will be clean. I will cleanse you from all of your filthiness and from all of your idols. And then that brings us to 26. Moreover, I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit within you, and I will remove the heart of stone from your flesh and give you a heart of flesh. I will put my spirit within you and cause you to walk in my statutes, and you will be careful to observe my ordinances. You will live in the land that I gave to your forefathers, so you will be my people, and I will be your God. Moreover, I will save you from all of your uncleanness, and I will call for the grain and multiply it, and I will not bring a famine upon you, and I will multiply the fruit of the tree and the produce of the field, so that you will not receive again the disgrace of famine among the nations. What was wrong with the heart of the Israelites that have to have another one? Yeah, it was heart. Remember that old tune from the 50s or 60s? It was a hard stone. Hard stone. So, if they're going to be the people that God wants them to be, that's got to be changed. And hopefully to bring that about, he says, I will put my spirit within you, and I will remove this hard stone from your flesh and give you a heart of flesh, that is one that is compliant or willing or obedient, if you please. And looking at the last part, looking at verse 28, the obedience that is mentioned in the previous verse, in verse 27, is one of the precondition, or is the precondition, or requirement for them to live in the land, because you are to be careful to walk in my statutes and to observe my ordinances. So we need to learn that God's putting a new heart in these people and a new spirit in these people does or does not guarantee that they will be the people he wants them to be. No, it does not. It's something that, sir?
It's still up to them.
It is still the ultimate responsibility for any man or woman's relationship with God rests with us, the man or the woman, the person. Going on to verse 33, I think I already mentioned that. Oh, I think I mentioned that too. Early in the book, he says they are obstinate. Verse 7 says that they are stubborn and obstinate, and that's why they needed a new heart and a new spirit within them. And let's see, verse 31, then you will remember your evil ways and your deeds that were not good, for you He says, I am not doing this, that is, I am not bringing you back to the land. I am not putting a new heart in you and a new spirit in you. I'm not going to renew the land and cause it to bloom and blossom as if it were paradise, because you folks are such wonderful people. I'm not doing it for your sake. Let it be known to you. Be ashamed and confounded for your ways, O house of Israel. And I guess the Lord was fearful that all the blessings that he had promised for them would make them, what's the word I'm looking for? Complacent? Complacent? And something that they would then come to expect without regard to their conduct. Is that what Jesus found? It's the same as to that Jesus found. Sadly enough.
Proverbs, reading last night, it said, Proverbs, it said, give me not poverty nor riches, poverty or riches, lest I forget God, or poverty that I steal and shame God.
Yes.
Give me what I need each day.
Yes. That's a great verse.
And that's because he did, he blessed them. Each one of the times he blessed them greatly.
No.
They were appreciated for long.
I remember that recalls my mind of 40 years wondering how God fed them every morning with manna, and all they had to do was go out there and pick it up. And they never complained about that, did they? Free breakfast, free food every day, all you have to do is go get it. You don't even have to go down to McDonald's. No. Anyway.
I think that, you see it in the New Testament, the 10 lepers, and only one comes back to thank him. I think that is a lesson to us, that so many times I'm afraid that we do rely on him, and we believe in his ability to answer prayers, and we see him answering prayers over and over. We just got to be careful that we are thankful for it, that we return thanks for it.
Rather than take it for granted.
Yes.
They almost seem to have a sense of like entitlement too.
A sense of entitlement.
Yeah,
Yes.
like
Yes.
they went so far as to complain when they were being sent out.
Right. And the sense of entitlement that Jocelyn brought up was, of course, the Jews had a problem with that based upon their physical descent from Abraham. That is my entitlement. And as long as I can claim that and sustain it, then God owes me. God owes me. And believe it or not, some still have that perception today. Verse 33. Oh, I found this from Patrick Fairburn. If you ever see in his books, I recommend that you read it regarding verse 31, that the reason I am doing this is not for the goodness in you. One of the points that struck me in this verse was that it puts the focus for our blessings, not on my earning, but on his grace. And this is from Patrick Fairburn. I think he's a Scotchman, I believe, from 1880 to 1890. He says, in this case, the creature, thus exchanges the vanity and futility of a human ground for the infinite sufficiency of God himself, and the feebleness of human efforts for the all-prevailing might of omnipotence. It's a difference of trusting yourself or trusting God. And he said it so well, I didn't want to read it. I think I got another quote from Patrick Fairburn. But that was so, the feebleness of my human efforts in exchange for the all-prevailing might of an omnipotent God. It shouldn't be difficult to make that choice. It shouldn't. I can trust in myself, feeble, vanity, futile, or the infinite sufficiency of God himself. Verse 33. Thus says the Lord God, on the day, that I cleanse you from all your iniquities or sin, I will cause the cities to be inhabited, and the waste places to be rebuilt. The desolate land will be cultivated instead of being a desolation in the sight of everyone who passes by. They will say, quote, this desolate land has become like the Garden of Eden, and the waste, desolate, and ruined cities are, and I'll add this word, now fortified and inhabited. Then the nations that are round about you will know that I, the Lord, have rebuilt the ruined places and planted that which was desolate. I, the Lord, have spoken and will do it. So we can, if they trust in God's infinite grace and in his infinite sufficiency, as Fairburn calls it, you will be blessed beyond your imagination. But verse 33 says, their forgiveness has to come before their restoration to the land. He sprinkles water on them, washes them clean, gives them a new spirit, gives them a new heart, and then brings them into the land. The land has been made ready, and they need to be ready to go into this, well, we'll call it Holy Land, and they are God's holy people, supposed to be God's holy people before they ever go in, and that's what he's expressing here. I think I have another one I want to read. Such promises as those contained in this chapter. Wait a minute. From Fairburn again. Such promises as those contained in this chapter cannot therefore be taken in an absolute sense. They must be understood to some extent conditionally. In the case of God's threats, it was always possible by a change of mind to the better to escape the evil. And according to the word in Jeremiah 18, which I have on the next slide, according to the word in Jeremiah. And there is no reason why we should not expect the same rule to hold in respect of the promises. Now let's go, and of course I've told you that I've really struggled to try to figure out the fulfillment of these fantastic prophecies. And they are fantastic. But the problem is I have not seen them fulfilled yet. And it has been 2,500 years so far, and still counting, and it still hasn't happened.
But you still haven't seen them return to God and
Correct.
doing all of that.
Correct. This is what Jeremiah, who was incidentally contemporary to that with Ezekiel. He was in Jerusalem. Wait a minute. Oh, Jeremiah 18. At one moment, or if at any time, I speak concerning a nation or concerning the kingdom to uproot, pull down, or to destroy it. I've spoken. That's what I'm going to do. But, verse 7, if that nation which against which I have spoken turns from its evil, I will relent concerning the calamity I planned for it. And I only planned for it, I made it known, I spoke it. Verse 9, or in another moment, I might speak concerning a nation or concerning a kingdom to build it, to build up and to plant it. And that's what we're talking about here in this context. If it does evil in my sight by not obeying my voice, then I will think better of the good with which I had promised to bless it. So, now then, this is God speaking to Jeremiah, speak to the men of Judah and against the inhabitants of Jerusalem, saying, Thus says the Lord, Behold, I am fashioning calamity against you and devising a plan against you. And then he says, Oh, please, turn each of you from your evil way and reform your ways and your deeds. So verse 11 is a combination of speaking evil against the nation. But what would have happened if Israel had finally came to their senses and after hearing the prophecy on the lips of God's spokesman, decided to repent, genuinely repent, God would have canceled the prophecy.
It's like Job, when he went to Nineveh, 40 days and this city would be destroyed.
That was the promise.
And they reacted like they should have, and so God spared them.
Yes.
And stopped the calamity.
Yes, that was amazing because the Assyrian nation was one of the worst, the most vicious and hated nations of its time. And it repented from the king all the way down. He sat, if I remember, in sackcloth. And the whole city changed its ways, so God said, okay, I know what I promised. I know what Jonah said, but I also see what your reaction is, and that prophecy is canceled. So if he promises blessings, and people still go along in their stubborn, rebellious ways, then the prophecy of blessing is canceled. I didn't say that. That's what Jeremiah said. That's where I am presently. That doesn't mean it's correct.
But I mean, if it's coming from God, God has ultimate authority over everything. I mean, who are we to tell God, you promised us that? Like, we don't have any way to stand up against that. I mean, if God's looking at us and saying, I know I promised you blessings, but you're not getting your act straight, so I'm not giving them to you. I mean, it's the same thing as, with us as parents with kids. I've told my kids before, oh, we'll go get ice cream, and they start acting crazy. I'm like, well, we're not doing that now.
Say goodbye to your ice cream.
Right. I
Yeah.
mean, it's the same concept.
Yeah. Now, again, that's just my go around. The main one of the problems I have with putting it off and making it spiritual in the church age is because these people, just like the book of Revelation, would have expected these blessings within their lifetime. You can't read the book and say that the people that sat down and read it would not expect it to happen to them. Not 500 years later, and spiritualize the whole thing and apply it to the church. Although many do. But the people of that day would not have understood the church or Jesus, how that works. So a lot of people say, well, he used the language that they would have understood physically so that they would understand them spiritually. There's nothing in here that would lead me to believe that the people are instructed to take this spiritually. They would expect that the trees would grow, and the crops would grow, and the grapes would grow, and they would prosper, and God would be with them, and they would triumph over all of their enemies. But the problem is that they thought it was going to be like that, no matter how I live.
And when we get to Nehemiah and Ezra, when they came back, it didn't happen. And the reason was given very plainly to them why it didn't happen. It was because of their lack of faith and their disobedience and all of this again.
When the people returned about 50 or 60 years after these words were spoken, about 50,000 out of the entire population in Babylon returned. That, if I were God, that would not be the figure I would hope for. If they want to come to my land and be my people, then I would expect them to want to come and do that. But many of them have found prosperity and laid down roots in Babylon and never, ever came back to God's land, or their land, if you please.
And he had told them to do that, to make their home and for 70 years.
For 70 years, correct.
They did that.
So we are in that, I think, the year 582. If you'll remember in your history, the return under Cyrus, the Persian, was in 539. So it's not that far off. The Babylonians only remained at the height of their power, believe it or not, for about 70 or 80 years. They rose to power around 620 BC, and by 540 BC, they were taken over by the Persians. And it was the Persians Cyrus, who told the Jews, you can go home if you want to. That's my take on it, at least tonight. At least tonight. I'm working on it. Now, of course, I asked you last week how many of you understood what premillennialism is, but part of that particular program is, since these prophecies of the great return and booming population and the great prosperity have not been fulfilled, well, they're all going to be fulfilled literally at the end of time when Jesus comes back the second time. The Jews are going to be converted as a nation. Every one of them are going to come to Christ and be saved. Every one of them are going to return to the nation of Israel as their homeland. Jesus is going to sit on the throne of David, and he's going to rule for 1,000 years. Revelation 20, I believe it's verses 4 through 7. So they are still waiting for the prophecies to be fulfilled, literally, since they have not literally been fulfilled so far. And that's all we'll get into with that. Any questions? If you've got a different opinion, I'd love to hear it. Okay. I don't care if I hear it or not. Verse 27. Thus says the Lord God, quote, this also I will let the house of Israel ask me to do for them. I will increase their men like a flock, like the flock for sacrifices, like the flock at Jerusalem during her appointed feast. So will the waste cities be filled with flocks of men. Then they will know that I am the Lord. He promises that I'm going to repopulate the land. You remember I told you that not many came back. 50,000 people in a nation the size of Israel, even as small as it is just a drop in the bucket. So God promises, I'm going to fill it with men like it used to be. But let's look at verse 37 first. I will let the house of Israel ask me to do for them. I will increase their flock. You remember what he had said on a couple of occasions before? Son of man, these men have set up idols in their heart, and this is in the temple, in the vision, and have put right before their faces the stumbling block of their iniquity. That's idols. Should I be consulted by them at all? And what's the implied answer? No, I am not going to hear a thing these people say when they come into my house and set up these idols. And we went through all of that. And again, I think I've got chapter 20, verse 3. Son of man, speak to the elders of Israel and say to them, thus says the Lord God, do you come to inquire of me? As I live, he holds up his hands, and in an oath, I will not be inquired of by you. He stopped listening. Yes, or Jesus says, yeah, one of the old prophets said, yeah, not Jesus. Why are you bothering to trample? You're trampling my courts. Speaking of temple grounds. I don't remember which prophet that was, but yes. So over and over again, the Lord tells Ezekiel that I'm not going to listen to the kind of requests these people are bringing. And I can imagine what they were. Bring back our king, throw the Babylonians out, and reestablish us just like we were before this ever happened. Now we hear of him willing to be asked for blessing and prosperity with what's implied. Come ask me for blessing, and I'll give it to you. Just come ask me.
They have to stay devoted to him.
I'm sorry?
They have to stay devoted to him too. They can't just.
Oh yes. Oh, yes. Remember, it's conditional. He refused to listen to the people when their hearts were stubborn, hard. And now that hopefully they will, after he puts his spirit in them and washes them clean of their sin, that he's now ready to listen. The problem was that didn't happen. It did not happen. I just can't see the restoration of 50,000 Jews from Babylon and the ensuing history up to the time of Christ as coming anywhere near fulfilling these marvelous words. Oh, I see Israel's like the Garden of Eden now. These people were blessed by God. Nehemiah and Ezra went home every night with a headache, trying to deal with these people that came back from captivity because they were stubborn and hard-headed. You remember the problems? I don't remember. I think it's Nehemiah with marrying foreign, idolatrous women.
And then again with Ezra, they had promised and then they.
With both of them? Okay. That was just one example. I had told you, don't intermarry with the surrounding people. And what did they do? They went and intermarried with the surrounding people. And Nehemiah became furious. But this was just one example of the heart mindset and the heart condition of the people that came back from Babylon, and it was just a few of them. So I just can't see that fulfilling this prophecy. It's way, not nearly enough. Think of it before we get back next Wednesday night and see what you think. So the difference lies in the kind of people who are asking and the things for which they're asking. In verse 38, he's referring to probably the appointed feast is probably Passover, at which thousands upon thousands of sacrificial animals were brought to Jerusalem for sacrifices for Passover celebration. And the city was run over with them. And he says, I'm going to make your men as populous as those sacrificial animals that everybody from all over the country is bringing. That's how many men you're going to have. But the wonderful thing about this is, what was the state of those sacrificial animals? They were holy and dedicated to the Lord. Don't bring me a deficient animal, you remember? Don't bring me one with a limp, and so on and so on. I want a perfect animal. And these animals that were brought were perfect. And they were dedicated, consecrated to God. And that's exactly what he expected of these men that he was hoping to repopulate his city or country with. We're going to stop there. No, we got one more thing I want to say regarding verse 38. No, I've already said it. Anything else? Tell me what you think about these prophecies. Let me tell you, there's no consensus on it at all.
That makes sense. Anybody that's read them and wondered when thing that this happened, it makes all kinds of sense that it didn't, and there was a reason for it.
Yes.
It was
Yes.
not on God's part, his inability to do it.
No.
It was the lack of faith.
And do you think that God was just bursting to do that for them? Yes, he was. I want to in the worst way to bless you. Would you please give me a chance? That's what he's asking. Would you please give me a chance so that I'll do it? I want you to come and ask me, and it's yours. But I expect that new heart and that new spirit and the conduct that follows. Yes, Jocelyn?
Is he not also saying that to us though today? I mean, that's all he wants from us is to devote our lives to him, and he says, you know, he's gonna be there for us. I mean, not everything we ask for, we have to have, so it's at his discretion anyway, but
Mm-hmm.
if our hearts are in tune with him,
Yeah. I remember a song about somebody, oh Lord, won't you give me a Mercedes Benz? Janet's Joplin. My friends all drive Porsches. I felt I made amends. Is that how it went? That's the kind of prayer that God is not interested in hearing. And I don't know whether Janet's Joplin got that before she died or not, but anyway, that's the kind of prayer he's not going to be interested in hearing. Any final comments? All right, let us pray. Father, go with us tonight. Keep us safe and keep our hearts and minds attuned to you at all times. In Jesus' blessed name, amen.